Hello, everyone. So this past week, there's a retired four-star admiral, the number two in the U.S. Navy, the vice chief of naval operations, was arrested by the FBI for violation of federal bribery charges. Allegedly, he pushed a contract towards a company in return for a post-retirement job of about $500,000 a year with $100,000 in stock options. So if true, this is incredibly stupid, and it brings great discredit upon the U.S. military. For the past 20 years, I've been talking about this topic, and I came across this when I was an instructor at the Marine Corps' MAGTAF staff training program, where we had general officers as mentors. And these general officers were not only getting retirement from the U.S. military, but then they came on as consultants, which shielded them from the federal ethics laws and disclosures, and they were making a ton of money. So, some of them getting $200, $300, $400 an hour, flying around in first class. And they had a major assigned to them to do their talking papers and whatnot. They're treated like royalty, and their function was to mentor active duty general officers. And you could see the symbiotic relationship between the active duty guys and these retired generals, because they had so much influence that they would determine if this active duty guy would, possibly get promoted or not, based on his performance in the exercise. So they carried a lot of influence. So nonetheless, this problem's been going on for a while now. In 1976, Congress passed a law that allowed military contractors to contribute to political campaigns. And so this just opened up a Pandora's box. Last year, about $70 million was donated to congressional leaders and their political action committees. So the $70 million in return brought hundreds of billions of dollars in military contracts to these defense corporations. And these defense corporations, in return, hired a bunch of lobbyists and retired generals. So, for example, you've got former Secretary of Defense, General Mattis, working for General Dynamics. He's on their board. You've got former Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, Joe Dunford, works for Lockheed Martin. You've got former Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Milley, works for J.P. Morgan. You've got General Petraeus, works for KKR. You've got McKenzie, who just recently retired, works for a lobby group that advocates for a foreign country. I did a podcast on that previously. So in the background, we don't have full disclosure. An average American has no clue that when Petraeus or Mattis get on national TV and advocating a certain foreign policy, that they're being sponsored in the back by somebody. Nobody's got a clue unless you dig deeper, and most people don't have the time to go look up this information. So we need to clean up our act, and this has been going on for a long, long time. In 2009, USA Today did an article on this same issue, and Secretary of Defense Robert Gates came out with a policy of streamlining all these issues that were going on. So at the time, there was about 193 mentors in this DOD's mentorship program, where retired generals, as I talked about with the MAGTAF staff training program, would come on. So the military had about 193 general officers in the mentorship program. When Secretary Gates announced it in 2010, 2011, this number out of 193, and what he did was he basically said, I'm going to cap this thing. You're going to get $90 an hour. Your cap is $179,000 a year salary, and there's going to be financial disclosures. So out of those 193, there were 11 generals that opted to sign up for this program. Out of the 11, 7 resigned. So there were only remaining 4. Think about this. Out of 193 mentors, there were only 4 that remained in the program. It clearly shows that the remaining 189 mentors had other interests, obviously financial interests, so they didn't want to disclose their relationship with the defense contractors, so they opted out of the program. And that's fine, that's a personal decision. But what we don't want is a conflict of interest, where a general's got one leg in the military-industrial complex and the other leg in the military on mentoring and advising other officers, and could sway them one way or the other on a certain program. So this is important to clean this up. And since then, we really haven't done much on cleaning up the roles and responsibilities of retired generals. So what I'm advocating is, yeah, I mean, Admiral Burke was uncovered, but how many others are out there that are floating around that have cut side deals or have a major conflict of interest? And I'm here to tell you there's probably a lot of them. I know many of these generals that work for the military-industrial complex. They work for foreign governments, foreign lobby groups, and they're making a ton of money. Each general, four-star especially, gets around $200,000 a year in retirement plus benefits. And then he goes off and he's making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 from defense contractors a year. And then he's getting speaking gigs, and he gets on national TV to stay current. And and people that are watching these programs on CNN or whatnot have no clue that General so-and-so is being sponsored by some defense corporation. And he may be speaking on behalf of that defense corporation, or he may not be. But the point being is the public has the right to know. So there ought to be full disclosure. So Congress needs to, fence off these retired generals, and there has to be transparency. Now, one of the problems is we have the same problem going on in Congress. Many of these congressmen are receiving, by some estimates, over 80% of them are receiving big money from various lobbyist groups for their political campaigns. So they're on the take also. But nonetheless, the focus of this podcast is the military. And the first thing Congress can do to clean this up is bar retired generals from working for the military-industrial complex for a period of 5 years, or for any company that has a U.S. government contract of $100 million or more that they can't work from. If they do work for them, there ought to be a waiver, and there ought to be a full disclosure, a financial disclosure on behalf of that general. They should not be allowed to work for a foreign government. The State Department is allowing select generals to do that, to advise foreign governments. That shouldn't happen because there's a major conflict of interest there. And the same general should be allowed to work for lobbyist groups with foreign interests. That's a non-starter because then they're advocating on behalf of a foreign country. So this is critical. Generals actively go around using their rank. And when they do that in a public forum, Congress should require by law that they disclose. There ought to be full disclosure that General so-and-so, when he's speaking on TV or in a public forum, that if he's using his rank, then he needs to come out with a disclosure, say, I work for the following companies. So, for example, if Mattis comes out and makes a speech or gets on TV and talks, that he needs to disclose that he's on the board of General Dynamics. And General Dynamics does military contracts worth hundreds of billions of dollars with the U.S. government. And, that's not asking too much. That's just making sure that the audience understands that there is a conflict of interest and where's this general coming from. It's certainly not questioning his patriotism. It's just saying, hey, there ought to be full transparency. You're a general officer, you still have your commission, and you represent the U.S. government and you represent the U.S. service members that you serve with and also that are currently serving. So it's a very, very heavy burden to carry, and there ought to be full transparency. That's all I got. Stay rugged. Con out.